Pleasure is something we share with other creatures. I think the origin of most pleasures is evolution, where we take pleasure in things that will help us survive and reproduce. So this is why we enjoy drinking when we're thirsty, we enjoy sex, we enjoy food, the company of loved ones, and so on. We can tell whether something's pleasurable for a person if they seek it out, if they're willing to pay for it, if they want to do it again. And that way we can figure out what people find pleasurable and explore what different pleasures share, including those pleasures like art and music that aren't as obviously explained in terms of evolution, that pose more interesting puzzles. Well, one way to think about pleasure is to compare it with pain. So why do animals feel pain? Wouldn't it be nicer if we didn't feel pain at all? Well, no, it wouldn't. What pain is a signal that there's trouble, a signal you're doing something wrong, a signal that part of your body needs to be tended to. Pleasure is the flip side. Wouldn't it be great if we always felt pleasure? Actually, it wouldn't. It would be useless. Pleasure is a signal that you're doing something right. And what makes it pleasure is a sort of signal that makes you want to do it over and over and over again. It's a sign of success, just like pain is a sign of failure. A lot of my work explores certain puzzles of pleasure, particularly the essentialist nature of pleasure. And what I mean by this is that when we respond to something, we don't just respond to its physical features, we respond based on our beliefs about what it is. A face looks prettier to us if it's somebody we love. Wine tastes better if we think it's expensive. A painting looks better if we think it was done by a great artist as opposed to being a forgery. This essentialism, I would argue, is a human universal. It shows up in every culture, and it even shows up in young children. But culture plays a role in determining what aspect of an object's history should matter to you. So take a case of art. For paintings and other artwork, everywhere, origin matters. The deep history of something matters. But societies differ as to which sort of origin matters the most. Some societies praise virtuosity and skill. Others, originality and cleverness. And this could lead to very different sorts of art being valued in very different places. Animals definitely feel pleasure. Animals feel pleasure from some of the same pleasures that we feel pleasure from. Just like animals feel pain from some of the same things we feel pain from. What's uniquely human, I think, is the essentialist nature of pleasure. So I get pleasure from drinking water. My dog gets pleasure from drinking water. But the difference is, for me, I can get different pleasure from it's a Perrier versus spring water versus it came from a special pond and so on. My dog doesn't care. My dog just enjoys the water. And I think in general this is true. This is why things like art, for which the origin and the history are critical, are uniquely human pleasures. So some aspects of the depth of pleasure, the essentialist nature of pleasure, I think are straight out adaptations. It makes sense, for instance, to find somebody more or less attractive based on the kind of person they are. That's why we find people attractive. But some are accidents. So in some of my work, for instance, I find that if something touches somebody famous, it gets value. I don't think there's an adaptation for that, an evolutionary reason for that. I think that's an evolutionary accident involving a sort of short circuitry between the pleasure parts of the brain and parts of the brain that have evolved to think about contamination and disease. Where just like you catch a disease from somebody or an infection, you can catch their positive traits too. And I do think that that's an accident. Every society is going to have some pleasure. Obviously, societies have more or less pleasures. If you're desperately hungry or in a prison camp or under a totalitarian system, the opportunities for pleasure are diminished. You may be forbidden to do art. You may be forbidden to experience music or to play. So while I think just by being human, there's always opportunity for some sort of pleasures, societies differ very much in the opportunities that one has for it. I think pleasure is related to happiness. There are studies done by Danny Kahneman and his colleagues that look at how much pleasure somebody has in their life and how happy they are. And there's some relationship, but they aren't one and the same. I think you could live a very happy and satisfying life with very few pleasures. I also think you live a life full of pleasure that is not very satisfying at all. It makes you very unhappy. So they're related but different.